Sorry, I forgot to start it.
All in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, the minutes are approved, thank you. All right, so normally at this point, we're open for guest comments, but one of our members has to leave early, and so we're gonna switch to Chad Hampton, who is the chair of the foundation for the library, and we'll have him give his report first.
Andy, thank you for accommodating my schedule. Since I last reported to you, the foundation has not met due to spring break, and we are meeting this Friday at 8 a.m. here at the library. 8 a.m. Yes, we changed it from 8:30 to 8. But I did. Manny mentioned that there at the workshop, the trustees had some questions about fundraising, and I did want to just briefly. I handed each of you a copy of a development plan that the board adopted back in November of last year. And I'm not going to read through that report. You have it, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. But part of what I've done over the last month or so since I took over was go back and look at the history of the foundation over the last decade plus. And as I mentioned to you in my first report to you, I consider this a board, a foundation in transition, because historically, at least what I have seen, it's not been a major fundraising. Obviously, in the beginning, it raised all the money to build this library, and the first few years of that were collecting outstanding pledges. But other than an annual letter campaign and some estate gifts, and there was an event, they had a gala, I think, for a few years where they gave an award, but the net income of that was rather small. It's not been a major fundraising board. The current board wants to change that, and that's what this plan is set to start doing. Now that we're starting from, I'm not going to say scratch, but we're starting from not a well-oiled machines basis. So our goal is number one, to increase the board. We would like to have experienced fundraisers on the board. We'd like to have more representatives from the major companies in Blount County. And then our plan is to start a program of donor cultivation. And that starts with the annual campaign, improving that, asking for ongoing support from our past and current trustees, foundation board members, friend board members, collecting data from patrons who are at programs, events at the library. And from there, building on to major gifts, planned giving, and ultimately a capital campaign when the board of trustees comes up with a specific vision, I think, for a bigger project that's worthy of a capital campaign, a major capital campaign in the millions of dollars. And so that's what you have in front of you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Chad. Any questions?
One of my big questions yesterday was, are there restrictions around what you guys can fundraise on? Does it have to be tied to anything?
No, but we will fundraise for capital projects. So we don't spend money on routine repair and maintenance, but for capital projects, things that increase values of the buildings, of equipment, furniture, software. I mean, we can spend money and raise money for those types of items.
So do you guys see things like the elevator and the new restrooms as capital?
Consider that a capital expenditure, yes.
Is that on your to-do list right away? Because we identify that as something that's needed.
Has the request for an elevator come to us? I don't know that I've seen that.
Restrooms.
Okay, what was I didn't remember a request for the actual restrooms with $1, I guess.
And I can't remember it off the top of my head.
But we review the requests that come in, and if it's deemed appropriate, by the board, then I've not seen a request from the trustees that since my short time here has been denied.
We'll have a copy for you. Right.
Thank you and your colleagues for your service.
Likewise, thank you.
Any other comments for Chad? And you're welcome to stay, Chad. as long
Stay
as-
for a little bit.
Okay. No. Okay, moving on, go to the, thank you all for coming. We really appreciate it. We're talking ahead of time. It's really fun to see people here at the meeting. Kind of like going to the commission meetings, but we're not used to having more than 2 or 3 here, so that we really appreciate it. If you want to speak, we have a sign-up sheet, as Anna had said earlier. We limit our speakers to 2 minutes at this board meeting. And Anna and Summer are timers, and we do really restrict you to that. We'll give you kind of like this to cut you off with about 15 seconds, and then we'll let you run over just slightly, but not much more than that. We have a lot to go over in our regular meeting, and frankly, I don't want to be here till 11 or 12 o'clock. Okay, so if you'll get the list, anybody else who wants to add their name to it, please feel free to do that. Otherwise, if somebody's a latecomer, they can sign up. And we'll go in order of your signing sheet. So first of all, I don't know, I don't know all of you, so I won't call your names off, but we'll go off the sign-in sheet. And again, thank you for coming. So the first speaker is Rob Spurko. And Rob, come ahead.
Just before you start, Rob, I will give you a hand signal when there's been 1 minute passed, and then when there are 30 seconds left, and then at the end of your 2 minutes.
Let me also tell you, the meeting is Zoomed, and we are recording. And we do have one board member who has COVID, and he is on the Zoom call.
Maybe you could have a capital campaign to buy Shepherd's Crook, yank us off. Is this close enough? Just picking up?
Yes.
Okay.
And also the room is white. Each of those little white things in the ceiling are microphones. And so if you're whispering back there, we can hear you.
Well, on that note, my name is Rob Spurko. I'm a longtime resident of Blount County. I just wanted to speak this evening at a couple of public meetings lately. I've heard bad things said about the American Library Association. So I thought I would look into this organization, especially because the freedom to read statement is one of the items cited in the library's policy about making decisions about this. And one of the things I noted, the very first sentence of that statement says that the freedom to read is essential to our democracy. And it turns out that statement actually dates from the original version of that, which was written in 1954. So it wasn't just some trendy thing that happened to pop up in the past few years. Right? That's a long established precedent. And I did find myself wondering, especially having heard that some challenges to books in the school libraries, for instance, turn out to have been books that weren't even in those libraries. If the people who were challenging books in this library had library cards that they used a lot, but it turns out I cannot know that information, right? It is private, protected information. And guess who assured us and set the precedent for that being private, protected information? The American Library Association. That phrase rung with me, the freedom to read is essential to our democracy. They say that most attempts at suppression rest on a denial of the fundamental premise of democracy, that the ordinary individual, by exercising critical judgment, will select the good and reject the bad. And that's what I currently really like about your policy, is it allows all of us as residents of Blount County. It's been said in some meetings that 70% has gone, the vote here has gone to Trump. That means that 30% didn't. So if 70,000 people voted, for a conservative principle, 30,000 people did not, right? And democracy only works if the majority is limited by recognition of the rights of everyone. and protect the rights of the minority, because otherwise you have tyranny. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Very good job. We do limit it to 2 minutes. Next, Shannon Bryant.
Hello, my friends. I'm Shannon Bryant and I live in Maryville. And it's great to see you all, but honestly, I'm a little bit annoyed to be here instead of at home with my son, because we are once again met apparently to talk about banning books in the year 20 and 23, which seems wild to me. And that reason, the reason why we're here for that is because some people here think that they know what's best for other people's children and other people's families, which I feel is wrong. When last we were here, Manny told us about your robust and professional and well-researched process for dealing with books that have been asked to be reviewed. I would encourage you to continue following your own well-researched, robust, and professional policy, no matter what anybody in the audience behind me asks you to do. And I hope that at some point they will feel guilty about the taxpayer dollars they waste every time they put in a frivolous review request. You all have my support, and thank you for doing what you do. I hope that this calms down at some point so you can get back to the business of running an amazing library. Thank you. I'm going to go make dinner for my son.
Thank you, Sharon. Next, Forrest Erickson.
All righty, and I won't see you waving. You'll have to like say 15 seconds or something.
Got it.
I'm Forrest Erickson, and I come to speak about challenging books. In 2nd grade, teacher read to us the story of Charlotte's Web, and we experienced Charlotte's death, which was for me first in literature. In early grade school, teachers read to us the then 5 known Laura Ingalls Wilder Little House books about growing up in Wisconsin, Minnesota, and South Dakota in the 1800s. It is a mostly happy story of adventure, of European westward expansion, but we learned about Mary's blindness from disease. In 5th grade, teacher read to us The Hobbit. It was exciting, but several of the dwarves, our friends, were killed in battle. In 7th grade, things really changed when we read John Steinbeck's The Pearl. The teacher warned us that it did not go well. It was burdensome. Perhaps about 9th grade, we again read Steinbeck of Mice and Men, and I knew early on that it was not going to end well. It did not. Senior year, high school, Steinbeck again. I dreaded it, Travels with Charlie. It transformed my ideas on interacting with people. I realized how, by his very engaging writing, Steinbeck could help me experience life through the told stories of other lives, real or fiction. And I will say that these books helped me grow. Sometime in junior high school, we read the diaries of Anne Frank and Black Like Me. There was much to learn from these books about life experiences of other people and to a growing up boy in the middle-class suburbs of St. Paul, Minnesota.
30 seconds.
With the exception of the short biography of Harriet Tubman, the Little House books, and the Diary of Anne Frank, most assigned reading had male protagonists. It was useful to view the world through feminine eyes. We must have books that will teach us about the life struggles of other people if we're to make America a better place, or our ignorance will prevent us.
Thank you, Forrest. Marge Meredith. And will all of you let us know where you're from, which community, or whether it's Maryville or Alcoa or Blount County or some other place? Just let us know.
Ready? Hi, I'm Marge Meredith, and I want to thank you all so much for the job you do. This library is phenomenal. My whole family has made great use of it. I'm from Maryville, but I'm originally from Maryland. We've been here for 17 years, but we're still newcomers, I understand. So I want to preface something. I'm old. I'm a Christian from the cradle, but that really has nothing to do with anything that we discussed publicly, I don't believe. My dad was a bomber pilot in World War II. My dad fought and risked his life along with many other people to stop things like censorship and fascism and the banning of books. Anyway. So, you know, where I stand, but I read this. This is a book that I'm studying with my women's group at church. And I want to read this paragraph, which brought me to tears and made me know, okay, I had to say this here. Okay. So how did I become a librarian? Well, now I'll tell you, and it's a strange story. I was just a bit of a boy when my grandfather first took me to the library. Blah, 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 blah. I remember as we walked up to it, my grandfather said with real respect and reverence, the library. And the way he said it slowly and gravely has never left my ear. To him, and so to me, it was a holy word, a sacred word, a crucial word. Your library is where the community stores its treasures. It's the house that imagination built. It's where all the stories that mattered are gathered together and celebrated and shared. It's exactly like a church, it seems to me. People come to it communally for something that's deep and ancient and important beyond an easy explanation. Who you are as a town is in the library. It's why when you want to destroy a place, you burn down a library. People who fear freedom fear libraries. Okay. The urge to ban a book is always an urge to put your imagination in jail, but in the end, you cannot imprison it, just as you cannot imprison the urge to freedom, because those things are in every soul, and there are too many souls to jail or murder them all, and that's a fact. So I just thought that was so beautiful, and just to remind everyone that thanks of other ideas, that this is America 20 and 23, as Shannon said. This is not Nazi Germany. And everyone has a right to read whatever they. Thank you.
Thank you, Marge. Liz McCaffrey? Would you like?
My name is Liz McCaffrey, and we live in Maryville. When we moved here 28 years ago, our son was 1 year old. We made our first friends at the Blount County Public Library at story time for preschoolers. In the many hours we spent in the library through the years, I've never seen a book in the children's section that was inappropriate for children. As my son got older, librarians suggested excellent books. When his reading level rose beyond his grade level, librarians helped him find books that were still appropriate for his young maturity level. Children have healthy, curious brains that seek to broaden their knowledge, deepen their understanding, exercise their imagination, and discover the world and the marvelous variety of people in it. What a sad, dull world it would be if we were all the same, or if we never questioned the status quo, if we could not put ourselves in others' shoes and get to know them. Books help us grow. I understand a parent's fear of predators, but predators are not found in books. About 93% of children who are victims of sexual abuse know their abuser. Unfortunately, most are our friends, family members, and community members. Does your child have a cell phone? Your child can find porn easily, even accidentally. The average age of a child's first exposure to online pornography is 11 years old. So what can we do to protect our children? Monitor their internet use, limit their screen time, keep devices out of children's bedrooms. Ask your children, hey, what apps do you use? What are you watching? Who are you talking to? At my church, anyone who works with children must complete a workshop on preventing child abuse and keeping children safe. Ask your church about this. Books aren't the problem, and neither are librarians.
Thank you, Liz. Katie Strawbridge?
I'm sorry, that's a mistake. I just walk into a room and see a book. No, I'm a mother of a librarian, so I'm very pro-library.
Parker Benson?
My name is Parker Benson, and I'm a parent and a grandparent of children and grandchildren who live here in Maryville, and I reside in Blount County. I'm also a pastor in Blount County. And I am concerned about obscene and pornographic books present in our library. Our library has certain standards. If someone wants these items, they are free to get them elsewhere. Many parents, grandparents, and citizens feel the same way about obscene and pornographic books. Books leave impressions. They change minds. They sometimes lead to bad or unhealthy behavior, such as drug and alcohol abuse, suicide. Books can affect a person emotionally and psychologically for a lifetime. Recently, my wife and I found a book entitled Gender Queer in this library. It has pornographic pictures, graphic images of people engaging in a variety of sex acts. We took it to Manny Leet, the director, and he promised me it would remain in his office. He agreed this was inappropriate. Yet the American Library Association awarded this book, Gender Queer, the 2020 ALA Alex Award. I quote from their website, the Alex Awards are given to books written for adults that have special appeal to young adults, ages 12 through 18. How can you call a 12-year-old a young adult? Targeting pornography to children is reprehensible. It is also against the law. Title 39, Chapter 17 of the Public Library Laws of Tennessee. Yet this book won an award from the ALA as being good for 12-year-old children. I have 2 minutes. The only thing necessary for pornography to prevail in this library is for good people to do nothing.
Betsy Smith. Sorry. Beth? Okay, sorry.
I'm Betsy Smith. I'm a resident of Blount County, Walland, up in the mountains, foothills. And I'm also a concerned citizen and a retired English professor. I'm opposed to banning books, any books. To better understand the issues and what's happening, I purchased 12 of the 13 books that were listed in the Daily Times. I've read 6 of the books and I will finish the rest probably by this weekend. For the most part, the books are examples of teens exploring who they are. One purpose of the book is to help these teens as they struggle with their identity. Other teens may not need these books. Some of them they'll probably put down within 2 seconds after looking at it. They don't need this. Hopefully, though, their parents or a librarian will be there to help them find books that are appropriate for what they need and help them grow. In my opinion, it's the parent's responsibility to monitor what the child reads and sees on social media and on TV. It is not the responsibility of the librarian. The librarian is an active participant in helping find books, but it's the parent's responsibility. In closing, I just want to read 2 short passages from the library book by Susan Orlean. 1, books are a sort of cultural DNA, the code for who, as a society, we are and what we know. All the wonders and failures, all the champions and villains, all the legends and ideas and revelations of culture last forever in its books. The library is a prerequisite to let citizens make use of their right to information and freedom of speech. Free access to information is necessary in a democratic society for open debate and creation of public opinions. Thank you.
Thank you, Betsy. Mark McGee. Mark McGee here.
Yes, she's coming. She's coming.
Okay, I'm a Blount County resident and my name is Lark McGee. What Girls Are Made Of by Elena Arnold, 2017, purchased by our library in 2017. I have read it. This book does not qualify as obscene according to the reconsideration process. A librarian read it and the decision was made. This book will remain in the young adult section in this library. My legs fell open and made room for his mouth. He licked and licked like a cat at a bowl of cream. And when the inside of me felt as wet as the outside, we tried again. This time, Seth touched my face and looked into my eyes as he fit his penis up against me and pushed inside. A running path of semen like egg whites trailed down my leg. I'm horrified. It looks like I peed myself. I pull out of his underwear and pull him into my mouth. I pull and suck until he grows hard and he makes sounds. I keep going and going until he comes. The vibrator almost hurts, the hum, the buzz, the stroke of it. It's so different from the jet of water on my hand or on Seth's tongue. I keep forcing myself to come over and over again until the pleasure morphs into punishment. If Seth wants to have sex and I'm on my period, I'm the one to suggest that I give him head. It's the way he looks just after he comes. His face softened and sweeter than normal. It's the way his fingers look like a glazed donut after they have been inside of me. It's everything. This book can be found in the young adult section of our library. And young adults are kids right after the children's department. And the children's department, my kids left the children's department in the 5th grade and the 6th grade. This is not okay. It's not okay. Move to the adult section, which is exactly what I suggested when I submitted.
Appreciate your comments. Steve Wildsmith.
My name is Steve Wildsmith. I live in Blount County. I have 3 children. My 9-year-old and my 5-year-old make often use the library. I thought about reading a passage from a book by the novelist Stephen King, ironically enough, from a short story called The Library Policeman, because it is disturbing, very disturbing. But I decided to spare the audience that and just point out that where does the suggestion to pull books end? My kids make great use of the library, but I monitor what they decide to read and check out. Like I said last time, I have never experienced them wandering through the aisles when any book I did not want them to read jumped off of the shelves and into their hands. As parents, it is my responsibility to determine what my child is going to check out.
Amen.
We've heard a lot of the word obscene, the word pornographic thrown around. And I think it's important to point out that what one person considers obscene and pornographic may not be what another person considers obscene and pornographic. What matters is that books are available to us all. And if I don't want to read a certain book, then I don't check it out. If I don't want my child to read a certain book, I don't let him check it out. It's that simple. What you all are doing is a great service. I urge you to continue your process, evaluate books dispassionately, and then determine who gets to read what by those standards. Thank you.
Ash McDaniel.
I'm Ash McDaniel, longtime resident of this city. My mother was the director of this library. And She was a lifelong Republican and a lifelong Christian, and she was adamantly opposed to censorship. Went on record as that. So many people have said so many important things. One, it is parents' responsibility to monitor what your child reads. Two, young adult is not children. That category is for older people. And I don't know, I didn't come with any remarks prepared, but I just keep thinking, thinking that about Fahrenheit 451 and how that was a society, a fascist society in which books had been banned and created a need for an underground network of people memorizing books so that they would not be lost to the world. And I don't know, I get very angry and upset about this sort of thing because this is supposed to be a democracy. The library is a bastion of democracy, and nobody has the right to tell other people what they can and cannot read. I think that's really all it comes down to, and leave it at that.
Right on. Yeah.
Thank you, Ash. I hope I don't destroy this name, but Kikai Roostel?
You destroyed it.
Sorry.
It's okay. I live with it. Thank you all so much. I love your library. We have our Bible study class here every Tuesday. And you got the best chai latte. My remark is, everybody does have a choice to read what they want to read. But I don't want my grandchildren, when they visit me, to look at books that they're allowed to check out that show sex. That sex is love. I want them to believe that. It's just not sex. So I can't monitor that all the time, but this is what I believe in. I love your library, and I love my children. And thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to check and see if there are a couple more people signed up that may have come in later. Joan Worley.
Carried away listening to other speakers. I'm going to take a different tack, I think. Joan Worley, Maryville, Tennessee. I have a master's. Okay. I have a master's in library and information science, and I'm wondering how many people really know what that is or what we do. My dentist thinks that I check out the books. And one of the first things we learn in library school.
You're right. You're fine.
Okay. Is demographics. The first four letters there, demo, as in democracy. Demographics is the basis of what libraries do. I looked up census facts that there's a census, an online site called Quick Facts Census. There's so many people that I didn't know about, so many strains of people, so many ethnicities in Blount County. There's a great many of us that are foreign born. Well, I didn't know. There's 137,000 of us, almost 138,000 in Blount County. And then they break it down. And it's really interesting. When I was in library school, that's one of the things we did, was study demographics. We had something called government documents too. You could look up all sorts of things. The rules of operation of the Smoky Mountain National Park, they're all there. So on. So I think the important thing from my point of view is the objectivity that imparts.
30 seconds.
Okay. Sorry?
30 seconds.
Okay. We learned, if we didn't know it already, that librarians represent the community, the entire community. And their objectivity is intuitive and ingrained. So I trust librarians to get the right books. So there's a motto in libraries. Every reader his book, and every book his reader. So that's what we're aiming for in libraries. And I trust the librarians here to make the right choices for the books that go in the library. They're trained for objectivity. So is my time up?
Yes, you're on your 2 minutes.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you all for speaking and speaking your mind. We appreciate that. I'm going to step out of line just a second. And if you all we have a very tough code on how a book gets into this library. We don't just go out off of the street and just pick one out and throw it in the shelf. If anyone has any questions on how librarians and how the library researches or picks books, you're welcome to ask us, and Manny can respond, or any of us can respond to that if anyone has any questions.
I would like to know how they do that and pick books where they show positions.
How is the book
Sex
selected?
positions for children. I'd like to know how somebody did that.
I know, but
We should do this. Okay. She wants to deal with that.
okay, we have a form that you can look at, and it explains exactly how it is. But we do go through a whole series. We have a set of steps that we review a book before we buy it.
So you're not going to answer it?
No.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No.
And really, I'm being told by the other trustees that this is not the place for that. We can put it on the agenda for a future meeting. If you'd like to talk to it. Yeah, and you can email the library and ask us to put
Just
it on.
email me. That's the easiest thing to do. Just email me.
What's your email?
I'd like to know, the book that Art was reading out of, how did that book get into this library?
Is it in the library?
Yeah, how did it get into the library?
Like the woman positions for sex.
Can I ask that we stop this discussion?
No.
Right.
Well,
Certainly. Just ask the
there
question.
is
He opened the questioning up.
books that are
Yeah, you're trying to
either
ban talk here.
requested, or we go through, there has to be at least, 70 some recommendations in the United States for the library to accept the book. If it has that, then our librarians take a look at it, and then it's brought in. But if it doesn't have any recommendations, it's not brought in here.
Is not this discussion out of order?
Yeah, it is. It is. And we won't carry it any further. And I'm sorry, but
You brought it up.
Really, I'm pleased that you all are concerned about what's going on. And I'd really like to hear the discussion, and you can put it on our agenda and we'll be talking about it. It's fine. But you've got to email it to the director and we'll put it on our agenda.
Just for clarity, so that we have a process in place. All your questions are welcome, but we need you to follow our process. And that is to send your questions into BCPL. It's the first letter of Blount County Public Library .director at Blount BLOUNTTN.org. You're also welcome to go to the website and pull off our collection policy. It talks to you about how our items are selected, how our items are weeded, and how the reconsideration for each item is available to you. You need that context first, and then we can go on to what the next step is. Thank you very much for your time.
I just want to remind everyone that what I read tonight has been submitted and been reconsidered and was approved and is going to continue to be in the young adult section.
If the opponents are going to continue to raise issues, then I must as well.
I'll have to cut it off here. We're not. Okay, moving on. I'll give you a second if anybody wants to leave. If you want to stay for the meeting, the rest of the meeting is welcome to stay. Go ahead.
You opened the question. That's a point of order.
I'll say it anyway. Shout out. Everyone to his own taste, so the old lady gets the cat. I did. That's
We moved here because of the values of this whole area.
Well, I think you got it wrong.
Oh, yeah, good. I was listening. Probably because I'm starting.
Okay, thank you all. Continue on with our meeting. You want to leave the door open? Are we okay with the door open? Is it? Why don't you leave it open?
Leave it open.
Yeah, I think it's okay. If it get cold, let us know. All right, moving on. Next part of business is my report. And first off, I want to, most people on the board in the room know who Anna Goddard is. And that has been the superintendent director of the library, and she is leaving us. And we are really sorry to see her go.
Want to wait because we can't hear anything until
Sorry, I'm sorry.
we can.
Yeah.
People have to come.
Yeah.
But it's.
Okay. All right, anyway, saying that Anna is leaving us, she's going to take a new position in Charlotte, North Carolina. Well,
It's 5 words in North Carolina.
words, I'm sorry. Raleigh, North Carolina, and it was announced that her place is being taken by Summer Dale, and Summer is in the green right next to us. We really appreciate the job that Anna has done for the library and for the board. She's really kept us in line, and we really appreciate it. And it's a really tough task that she's kept Manny in line too. So good luck, Summer. Okay, this past week, we had last night we had a meeting with the board going over the project program, which was the October 2018 view of what the library was going to be doing going forward. We pretty much, as a group, board decided that what was created back in 2018 is not viable for 2023 and going forward. And so we're going to relook at that proposal again, and we created new divisions. We're going to be talking about the Friends, Youth Services, Cafe, Catering, and locations in the building, study space, genealogy offices, more additional offices in the building. information reference and computers, new floor plans for the upper and lower level, new access for the lower level, additional needs for the future, and taking a long look at the Hall of Fame, that's here, the Sports Hall of Fame. So those are the categories that we'll be looking at, and hopefully we'll have some outside information too, from people if you want to see us approach anything else. We're always looking for ideas on what the community wants the library to be. It is a public library. We are open to anybody and everybody. And so we're always looking at how we can improve. So don't hesitate to come to the meetings, speak your piece, email the library or email Manny and let him know what you think. So we're going forward with that. I attended a board chair meeting, a Zoom meeting this past week, where it's something new where the chairs of boards are of the different libraries around this area are getting together and talking about problems that they may have or ways that we can improve and ways that we maybe one library is doing differently than the other. And it's a very informative meeting, and we'll be doing that on I guess the next meeting is in another month, and we'll be doing that ongoing. And I think it's a very good policy. And that's it for my report. Moving on to Manny Lee as director of the library.
So we're going to begin with youth services. Not only are we saying goodbye to Anna, but we did say goodbye to another member in youth services, Heather Schurer. She was here for a few years, and we thank her for her service here at the library. And we'll be welcoming Polly Taylor to work in youth services. She is a librarian, graduated from University of Tennessee in information science in 2020. So Polly begins on Friday. So we're welcoming her with open arms. The teen room has a fresh coat of paint now. Special thanks to our maintenance crew, and that all because of Don Stallions. He does such a wonderful job taking care of this library. If there's something wrong with the library, if maintenance needs to be worked, anything inside the library or the outside of the library, a ticket's placed and the maintenance crew is here within a day or two, sometimes that day. They do such a wonderful job. So my hat's off to them, as well as the IT department as well. They do a wonderful job taking care of this library.
Those of you in the audience, does everybody know that the library had a broken pipe at Christmas Eve? It flooded the library. Okay, so you know what he's talking about.
Yeah. One other thing in youth services, they are currently planning for their summer reading program, and this year's theme is All Together Now. If you go to our reference area, you'll notice there's a puzzle table there now, a public puzzle table. Those are very popular. They had one at my previous library. Patrons go up and work on a puzzle. We'll be there all day if you want. So it's just a wonderful thing. Once it's finished, a new puzzle will be out on the table as well. Last week, we had a Focus on Seniors event, and we were at capacity. And when I mean capacity, we were like packed like sardines. Apparently, the line went out the door. It was almost like early voting. That's how crazy it was that we had to turn people away. It was such a successful program. It was on wills, trusts, and power of attorney. The next Focus on Senior program is April the 19th, and it will discuss normal aging, cognitive impairment, and dementia. That will be located in our main gallery area. So there'll be more seating there. Over at Collections, we just want to have a special shout out to Maj Bean. She has been volunteering at this library for 31 years. Older than Anna. Margie is a trooper and fantastic, and we do thank her for her continued dedication here at the library. Over in the cafe, we, a special shout out to the Friends. There is now a double door commercial under counter cooler that Chelsea desperately needed. And she's been very pleased about that. So thank you, Friends. We also have an under counter ice maker as well. That was much needed. Again, the maintenance crew installed those. So we thank them for all their help. And in February, sales increased over 8%. Great. Over in patron services, when you walk into the library, they do such a wonderful display. We've had the Christmas display was probably my favorite, but this month is based on the Academy Awards. And they do such a wonderful job and get so many compliments when patrons walk in. We're very lucky to have talent like that in our library. And you can see in your board packet, Cynthia does a great job of showing the new patrons added per month and where it's located. And then there's an overall total. Thank her for that. I actually spoke at the MLK Center back in late February. I spoke on a Friday afternoon, and the kids were very excited because it was Friday afternoon. You know, the weekend was ahead, but they were full of energy, and they were fantastic. And I spoke about how wonderful the library is. And following me, we did have an author from New York come down, Alice Faye Duncan. She read her book and answered questions for the kids. And it was a wonderful experience. And I hope to be invited back in the near future. I will be attending Library Legislative Day in 2 weeks, and that's in Nashville. So I'll be attending that. And then next month is the annual Tennessee Library Association. And I will be attending, Savannah, who's in the room, will be attending as well as librarians Chelsea and Kathy Flaherty. And what's great about Kathy Flaherty, she's going to be presenting a program based on the pollinated garden. So we will all be there for support of Kathy and showing our BCPL pride at that program. So, and I know she's excited to speak about that. So we'll be attending that. That'll be over in Memphis. And then as far as some projects, as far as the roof, we have been given the green light for staff to park in the back here. And I did reach out to Don Stallions and Denny Gardner today. And the roof is not finished. They are just waiting on cap metal. So for all your contractors, cap metal. They take their word for it. I will be at the next foundation meeting, which is Friday at 8 o'clock in the morning, and we'll go over the plans for the automated library return and sorting, and then the remote lockers. So Robert McClellan finished a wonderful grant, an Arcana grant for the remote locker. It's been submitted, and hopefully we do get it. And if that's the case, the town of Louisville will have these remote lockers that you see at Lowe's. I actually just used one this past week in Lowe's. You'll see them at gas stations, those Amazon lockers. So now for our residents of Louisville who can't take the time to be driving here due to maybe their family or whatnot, they can go to the Louisville Town Hall and pick up their materials. They can place hold on materials there as well. So looking forward to that, and that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Manny. A couple of things I just wanted to mention.
One more thing.
Okay, go ahead.
Our finances are tip top.
That's what I wanted.
I always forget.
If you all look at the budget, and the budget reflects, we are in the percentage phase, which I just lost, 67% of our budget, but we have only spent 55%, so we are way under for year to date, which is a really great thing. And the way that our funding bodies work is that whatever is left is put into a pool for the library. does not go back into the city or the county funds, the library gets to use it. And so we are appreciative. So anything we save, we get to use. So that's a great thing. And so the staff is doing a terrific job, and so congratulations on that. The other thing I wanted to mention is Manny mentioned the things in the cafe, and the new products of the cafe are because of the Friends of the Library. They paid for it, and it's a great thing. Our friends are bar none. There is no friend group in the state of Tennessee that is better than ours. So, thank you. So with that, Dee, you're on next.
And I'll tell you about all the more wonderful things we're doing.
Great.
So we had another successful quarterly sale, earning just shy of $15,000. We, besides the regular 3-day sale, we waited 1 week and had a 50% off clearance. And we actually sold $4,000 worth of books in those 4 hours, netting us $2,000. So it was a really good day. We have our new website, and I see our webmaster Brianna sitting here. We have our new website up and running. I hope you've all had a chance to look at it. I don't know if the website is generating more interest or if it's just the Friends group, but we've had 15 new volunteers recently. So we're very excited. That takes us up to 125 volunteers. So we're doing really well in that department. And we have some really good teams and committees that are working with those volunteers to make sure they have good training to be able to help us hit the ground running. Membership committee is doing an awesome job. I pat myself on the back since I'm the chair. So we're going to start select seating at the first spring spectacular concert. And the select seating is for members. We will hold 6 rows of 5 chairs for our members. They would get a little ticket from us and be allowed to sit in those first 6 rows. Up to 15 minutes before the program starts, and then we'll release the seats to anyone else. And we're just playing with that number. We'll see what kind of response we get from our members. But we wanted it to be a perk for our membership. We're also looking, and we're trying to finalize corporate sponsorship. We have the letter drafted by our member Vanessa. We have a whole bunch of things in place to allow us to look at a tiered program for corporate sponsorship. So that'll be coming out soon. So Betsy, who's also here, when Betsy is working on the website with me, I looked at the history section and realized that we started as a Friends group in 1974, which means our 50th anniversary is next year. And we are planning a golden anniversary celebration. So you'll hear more about that as the time comes. But our next sale is beginning of June. I think it's 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. So we hope to see you there.
And again, the library friends are always looking for books for donations. They take paperbacks, they take tapes, they take anything. So we appreciate it. Thank you for the job that you do. It's incredible. And libraries from all over the country want to find out what's going on here. Just a great thing. Okay, our Ocoee Regional Library person, Liz Schreck.
No. I think this Bradford Pear shirt. Not, I don't like it.
Cynthia, would you mind closing the door back there? Thanks.
Pleased to travel and be with you all today. You have my report. So the training opportunities that we have coming up for library directors and staff in the region will be a Tennessee Electronic Library setting, specifically about how to use the social media calendar and help you promote resources the easiest way possible. Then we have the accidental archivist. coming up, which will be, we'll partner with a couple of other regions. And so there'll be several libraries up at the King Family Library. And it's a workshop that will be provided by professional archival staff at the State Library and Archives. And they'll be at the King Family Library. So we're excited to host that training.
Is that gonna be on Zoom too, or is it?
No, I think that's in person. Probably because of the handling of archival materials and things, so that. Then, of course, we are encouraging our trustees to continue to complete the trustee certification program. We have some Public Library Management Institute graduates in our region. 4 folks, library directors that don't have their maybe professional degree or a professional certification, but this is a certification program that they can participate in. So we're proud to have 4 folks from our region graduating. It's normally a 3-year program, so it's quite intensive. But this year this is the COVID class graduate, so they got it all in a year and a half. So they worked really hard, very proud for completing that. They graduated at the end of this month. So you all have already talked about some of these things that are on here. We've had them on here a couple of months just to bring it up. So looking at your folks' vacancies that are coming up on the board and things like that, you all have already talked about that. And you've already turned in your budget, so there's no need to go over the standards for public libraries for budget. But that's also included. So, and then of course I sent you the regional ebook and audiobook download system CERC statistics for the entire region, so all 9 counties.
Any questions for Liz? Thank you very much. We really appreciate you driving up to us too.
Not a problem.
Okay, moving on to old business. We talked about the 2018 project plan. Anybody have any questions on that? We keep going. Next is the proposed confidentiality of the library records. I came up with it earlier, and we do have a policy set in place on the confidentiality of people who come to the library to check out their books. We can get that without your approval. So, trustees, have you all read this policy? Any questions on it? Okay, I need a vote to make this into a motion, and you need a motion to approve. Second. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, and the confidentiality library records policy is been approved. Thank you. Next is the Blount County Public Library interlibrary loan policy. And this deals with us being able to ask any other library in the state to borrow books. And it spells out how it works. Anybody have any questions on that? I had a question on the first paragraph. Anybody who wrote this one?
Well, it's just the changes. I don't know who wrote it originally.
The last sentence in that first paragraph, I didn't quite understand it. It says, generally, the Blount County Public Library neither loans nor borrows new reference or genealogy materials and is unable to request materials through interlibrary loan, which are owned by Blount County Public Library as listed in its online catalog. What does that mean?
So people can't request things
From
that
their
we,
own- from
that
their
we own.
They
They-
can't
They would just check it out.
say that again now?
So our patrons can't request an ILL of something we own.
Okay. Okay. I
It
guess.
may be easy to say, and then follow up and say, you can check it out. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so I think what we're trying to do is if we've got it in our collection, we don't want to then be parasitic to other collections and ask for their copies too. Our community needs to use the resources we have if we didn't have it. So it is kind of separate in that. So if you want a book, but you're going to be, having to place a reserve or an ILL has a lot of behind the scenes expense to it. So we try to make sure that, okay, if we've got it in our collection, what we want to do is go through our processes in place, like a reserve or checking in, checking out. Where ILLs is if we don't have it, it extends our collection, is what is meant by that.
ILL is only available to those books which are not in our.
Yes, ma'am.
That's what the first sentence is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Could you kind of rewrite that a little bit? I would appreciate
And I
it.
would-
Is that okay?
Yeah, and I would remember it generally.
Okay. You want to table this or do you want to vote on that?
Or rewrite.
Okay, let's table this until the next meeting and let's see what the rewriting is on that. Any other comments on this? Okay, thank you. Okay, would like to spend a few minutes talking about something that I brought up at the last meeting, and that was the proposal of naming the bridge that goes across Crystal Creek Lake, to name it for Joy Bishop, who was the principal fundraiser for this library, not for the Blount County Library, not for the original Blount County Library, but for this one. And she created all of the committees, set up the people and the fundraising process, and created the money generator to create this library. And so I think it would be fitting for us to recommend to the city of Maryville to name the bridge after her. I'd just like to have some comment, and if you do agree to that, then I would like to forward that to the Maryville City Commission to see if they would do that. There is no name, there is no female road, bridge, or anything else named in Blount County. So that I know of, and there's definitely nothing in Maryville. So any discussion on that or questions?
And I think too, that we consider for our future plan, we maybe discuss in the workshop tomorrow, if they don't accept it, but we can also incorporate it within the library expansions as well.
Okay.
I'm trying to think, and you guys living here longer may know, but I don't know if they've done that recently. And I don't know, is that a county bridge or a
No,
city bridge?
it's a Maryville City.
And you're talking about the bridge going out the back door of the library over
Yeah.
to, so it's not really it's a pedestrian.
It's a
It
pedestrian.
is strictly a pedestrian.
It's a great proposal.
Okay, any discussion on that? Charlie, I don't know.
No, I'm perfect. I think Joy is very, I think it would be a good legacy for her, considering all she's done, not only for the library, but what she did ever since she came here from Texas all those years ago. And,
I don't know if you all knew Joy Bishop, but she came to Maryville probably, 25 years ago?
at least.
Just to move here, to be in Tennessee. Went to first BBBC Bank, looking for a job, and they said, well, we just aren't hiring right now. So she became a greeter, a volunteer greeter at the front door at BBC Bank, and just welcomed people into the bank. And that's how she started in Maryville. And she continued that. She knew virtually everybody in Maryville and just continued doing positive things for the city. And that was her goal, was just to make Maryville a great place to live. And so I think it would be a great thing to honor her with that. Okay,
Do we need a motion to formally?
I don't know. Do we need a motion for that? Probably. Okay, and a second. All in favor of doing that? Thank you. Appreciate that. And I know her family would love that. Okay, moving on to, is there any other old business? Danny, is there any?
Are we? Is the presentation of slides old business or?
No, it's new business.
Okay. Oh, yes, sorry.
Okay, under new business, the new budget.
So in front of you right now, you have the slides that I will be presenting to the Finance Committee in 2 weeks. So I will be speaking on March 31st over at the courthouse. So I'd like to go over the slides individually, and that will also coincide with second on the agenda list when it comes to new business. So.
Did we skip for the appointment of nominating committee and old business?
I was going to do it new business, but yes.
Okay, yeah, I agree with it being a new business.
Okay.
All right, so you have the slides in your packet right now. The first slide is the what we do, and that is the mission statement of Blount County Public Library. I want to go to the next slide. So this is going to be the accomplishments. And again, at these meetings, I have 15 minutes. So some of these slides are going to be rapid fire because I do have a strong message I want to get to for the Finance Committee in 2 weeks. But the accomplishments, we had our 13 hours reinstated. After a decrease in hours due to COVID, that's something very important, very special that, you know, we're business as usual now, and that will come into place in a few moments. The cafe and meeting room revenue streams have exceeded by a country mile, and that's Chelsea's not here right now, but she is like a wizard when it comes to the cafe and meeting rooms. Same thing with our programs have increased. Maintenance and IT, and I mentioned that before, that is now under county departments, and thank you to General Services and IT for that. The RFID conversion project has been completed, and it was like a year ago. I think next week it would be 1 year. 1 year when we closed the library for a week. We did that. We had such a successful local author day back in the fall, and we're going to be doing that again this year. We were going for 50 authors. We ended with 53, and we had to stop it right there. And we had more authors that wanted to participate. So we'll be doing that again this year as well. Library cards have just been out of control, and you can see that in the past month. Cynthia does such a wonderful job showing month by month an increase in library cards. 1 month was nearly 500. It's always in the high 400s. Which is great to see. So I'm going to get to the goals. Okay, so the first bullet point would be to restore Sunday hours of service. So let me speak about that. Again, about a year ago, we were talking about the hours. And I had brought a proposal to the board about not opening on Sundays to open Saturdays with the hours we have now. And I did tell the board, give me 6-7 months. Let's see what happens. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't work. Well, December, the first of the year. Now we want Sunday hours back. No, I want Sunday hours back. The reason's this: 8 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock in the morning is great. We have patrons in here. That's no problem. The 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. it's a ghost town in here. It is absolutely empty. We work the evenings. We know that. There's sometimes when we're closing, we have a half hour, we're closing and we have 4 people in the library. It's not many. So what my proposal, and this will require a vote from the board, is to allocate those hours, those 4 hours to Sundays. So we would be open from 1 to 5, and we had done that in the past. So we'll get back to that in a few minutes, but just keep that. Put a pin in that and we'll come back to that. Well, the other goal, and we're working through it right now, is implementing a book return system and with working with the RFID automation. So that was discussed last month and we'll continue to do that. The goal is to have that complete for the end of the calendar year. The last bullet point is something I've already mentioned, and we're in the process of doing that now, is the locker. You know, we're gonna start in Louisville first, see how successful it is, and then in other parts of the county. Okay, all right, let's go back to Sunday hours. Okay, so last time we were open Sunday, we had 45 staff working, and I'm not including maintenance or IT. We had 45 staff. Currently, we have 35 staff. So we're down 10. That's a problem. We're going to be open an additional day. We're going to need more staff. So Anjana and I had met with the finance team several occasions and spoke about this. And in front of you right now, I'm going to be asking for 4 positions. Now, there's a couple of offsets, but for 2 of them. So the first one is for a full-time library services cash handler coordinator. It's a lot of words, but that was suggested by the finance director. So we're going with that. Currently, we do have an accounting clerk too. She works 25 hours a week. We are looking to get her to full-time at 40 hours a week. With that, she would work 10 hours a week at the patron services desk. So there's 10 hours right there. The offset, again, she's already working 25 hours. We're asking for 15 plus the benefits. That has to go with it no matter what, even if they don't claim it or not, you have to put that in. Yeah.
What did that entail?
So, Anjani, do you want to kind of talk about the accountant clerk? Because she works directly, and this actually will come into when we talk about the organizational chart.
So this position is going to be a melding of the accounting clerk to position and the, I guess you could say, account or patron services, probably account associate. What is it? That was recommended so that we could have that interdepartmental coverage that is needed now that our staffing is different from what it used to be. What is it? Patron services has identified a need for additional staff. This young lady has an interest in going back full time, and so we saw this as the clearest avenue to get her there.
Does she handle all the funds in the library?
She does, she counts all the drawers, she swaps them out, she makes the deposits, and she does the training on the cash drawers.
Pay the bills?
Yeah.
Well, I guess I had one question, the title. I don't know, it just seems, I don't know, forgive me, I don't know, like the hierarchy of finance titles. I'm a graduate of finance, but it seems like it's a step down when you go from an accounting clerk to cash handler. And maybe I'm wrong, but it just seems like I would prefer to be. Yeah,
I can understand what you're saying, and if it wasn't the recommendation that we had,
Okay.
because trust me, I had a different title,
Okay.
Manny had a different title. You know, if we asked her, do you want the title a certain way, or do you want 40 hours?
Yeah.
You know, what we need is 40 hours. I understand what you're going for. It's just, this is what was recommended to.
and I'm thinking about her, but also anybody after her, and then what their next step would be from that, you know, from a resume standpoint. I just wanted to make sure it was a good building block, because it sounds like more responsibility.
It is,
Yeah.
it is.
And then, as you say, she is the one responsible for counting all the cash and everything, my big question was, who's the checks and balance with her?
So here's the thing, she won't be able to accept cash. She will not be able to be on the front end of it. She can offer support, but when someone goes to pay a fine, someone else will have to step in. And very rarely do we have only one person in that. And so we would build the schedule so she wouldn't be in that situation.
She'll never handle cash, but her title is cash handler.
I know, I said, I know, I'm having a hard time.
Wait, could you repeat that again?
She'll never handle cash.
She handles it on the back end. She counts it.
She won't handle.
So you can't be on both sides of the transaction. So she handles it on the back side and everyone else handles it on the front side.
Where did the name come from?
It's what was recommended.
The finance department,
Our finance?
the county's finance
Or the
department.
county?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
county's finance department.
So this is like a common job title.
Yeah. It was recommended, and again, Anjane and I both had two different names.
Can't we just call it
Why
whatever
don't we
we
just
want to
call
call
it?
it? Yeah.
We probably could, but I don't think the county would allow it. I think that's, the problem is that because it's gonna be the job title underneath the county's umbrella, we've got to follow whatever rules they said, yeah. So I agree. I think it's a terrible name, but,
So there is a schedule for pay based on that name title?
If this is successful, yes.
Okay, okay.
So
Thank you.
then the next full-time position, this is a position that we've had in the past and have now, a full-time patron services specialist. Now, this person would be dedicated strictly for patron services. Now, the offset is here. You remember last month when you voted on fines? So we're gonna bring back fines July 1st. Fine money that we make in a year will pay for this position completely, which is great. So
And then is that the offset as well for the cash handler?
no, it's not. No, the offset for the cash handler, she's already working 25 hours, so it would be
Got
the
it.
15. So this position will pay for the whole thing. So, and we do generate fines like that. We look over year by year before COVID, and you're in the 50s. So
But we asked for the fines to be reduced, so at 25 cents, are we gonna generate that kind of valve?
we will, because we were doing 25 cents except for DVDs. We will.
I thought it was very charges. No, it was always 25 cents? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
except for DVDs, it was always 25 cents. Then the other two positions are part-time positions, they are both patron account associates. So if you see what I'm doing here, I'm really trying to load up patron services, because when you have enough staff at patron services, because right now, admins work in patron services, youth services work in patron services, collection development, reference. Once you load that up, and PR as well. Once you load that position up, there's a trickle down effect. So now youth services will remain in youth services doing youth services work. Reference, the same thing. So we're gonna load up patron services because we're gonna need it. They're the front line, especially when we're opening up on Sundays.
Well, they've lost the most positions.
They certainly have. Yeah,
That's important. That's important to
yeah.
my.
And that's something that, well, yeah, you know that how that originated. So that's what I'm trying to do is load up patron services. Then we have capital planning, which is the next slide. So, which we always have. One of the bullet points, I do want to point this one out, replacement of carpet and service desk flooring. That's in ours, but also Don Stallions, again, mentioned him before with general services. That's going to be in his budget because we do need, this carpet hasn't been replaced since the building opened and it shows. So that's something, it probably won't happen next fiscal year, but the year after, but You already have it on their radar.
Do they get cleaned annually?
Well, if right now it wouldn't stand up. Yeah, it would shred.
Yeah. Shredded.
So.
Yeah.
Are we not gonna consider placing the elevator or anything like that in capital? Okay.
No, that's gonna be project off to the side now. Again, meeting with the foundation, that's something that will be on their radar.
But we can request it from the county. With funding lines.
It would be better suited if the smaller existing elevator.
Yes.
If that had an issue, then we would go to the county and we'd have avenues that way. But for a brand new capital project, it would be better suited for the foundation.
And I did go to Don about our existing cab, which needs to be replaced, and I guess there are cabs that are in worse condition in the county than ours. So.
In the county building.
Yeah.
The Justice Center.
Yeah.
The existing elevator.
So this is what I'll be presenting. I don't know if you have any other questions, but
And I mean, Manny, I have a few comments that I think would set you up for more success. On the first slide, bullet 2, cafe and meeting room revenue streams have exceeded projected budgets. I would recommend putting a percentage there. So what I'd like to do is like illustrate very simply by how much, because if they ask you the question, it's there, because they may. And
what I can do, because this has been submitted, I will have this with me. So if they do ask that question,
yeah, I think that you can update.
I can reach out, because I know it begins this week,
Okay,
not us, but.
and then the number of new library cards,
Yeah,
that really needs to be illustrated. And then my only other comment was, be prepared with our old budget and our proposed budget and the two side by side and what the difference is going to be. But I think it's a great presentation. I didn't want to get you caught off guard to say, well, how many library cards and are those in Blount County? I think that pie chart's great, that we have.
I can see if I can reach out to them and see if we can even have that. Pretty,
If it's next week, you may have time for because it's probably the public,
yeah, we're after lunch, it's like 1 o'clock on the 3rd.
you think?
Probably, I mean, what I would do is I would get with whoever the clerk of the commission is
Right.
and just find out.
Is it like a public record timing thing? Maybe it needs to be like 1 week prior.
I would think if you can get it in by, if you're meeting on the 31st, which is a week from Friday, if you get it into them maybe by the end of this week or Monday, just to see if it's possible.
And if not, have those numbers offhand,
And these numbers are very easy to find. So
Yes,
it's
I
not,
figured,
yeah. Thank you.
And just just to follow up on that about the number of new ones. When we saw, if it's passed, the total numbers. Basically, there's one library card for every 2 people in the county right now. So 65,000 out of 138,000, that's a really, that's a pretty substantial number. So, so that means that this library is getting use by the community. So
The more we can narrate the use, the demand, the growth, it supports your evidence of asking for more employment and budget.
Thank you. So going back to Sunday hours, I don't, if you have any questions about Sunday hours.
So I do, just so I can be clear, I think I know, but I want to make sure. So what we would do is like on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, cut 1 hour back and then have that
Yeah.
be on Sunday. Okay.
Yeah, so we
that
would be
makes sense.
closing at 8 o'clock instead of 9 o'clock. Those 4 hours would go to Sunday.
And it's 4 hours enough on Sunday.
That's what we were before that was.
I would. But I remember this conversation, meeting room space in the past. I remember, because there was a high demand on Sunday.
Yeah, it would be when the library is open.
Okay.
Yeah.
Should we discuss that? I don't know.
Because we can,
Until we have the staffing,
Yeah.
I know.
we're different, we're down by 10 full-time equivalent.
That's what I'm saying, but he's saying it, they would be available.
No, it'd be available when the library is open
For those 4 hours.
for those hours,
Oh.
1 to 5.
morning, like,
You guys have the staffing for that?
Well, yeah, and we would be, we would be open, and just like we are now, and the meeting rooms would be open, wouldn't be open in the morning. We don't have the staffing to be here all the morning to,
That includes catering.
yeah, it would just be when the library is open. Once we get more staffing, and it can be revisited, but until that, we just don't have the power to do it.
And Chelsea looks, sorry.
I'm saying a more supportive staff. It
Yeah.
seems like, so you're doing 7 days a week of catering.
Well, so here's the
Yeah.
thing, Chelsea decides the catering due to her capacity,
Okay.
the staff flow, and her budget. So if we're getting, so like, for instance, as we're tracking this year, she has her overall food supplies budget, and she sees, okay, I've got so many more already identified catering jobs. What does that allow me on top of that? And if it's none, she doesn't take it.
Okay. That's.
when you make this presentation, can you also say, we would like to do being open Sunday morning for meetings, but we don't have the budget. We would love to have a maintenance person here who could let people in to use the rooms. Are you allowed to say that? And can you say that?
I can say whatever I want. I don't know if that's gonna be, you know how I got that can in my office?
Yeah.
I may have that around my neck. So I don't, yeah.
We've had this conversation. I don't think he's asking for enough money. I think we should be asking for more.
I feel comfortable with what you're proposing.
Yeah,
I think you
no
should
problem.
stick with that. If that's also what you guys have planned for staff for. If we want to talk about this for next round, I think to provide evidence,
I don't think.
Get the first question.
Yeah.
Get the first success. That would be
Yeah.
this. Yeah. Right.
Okay, any other questions on the budget and presentation? Thanks for your input.
About, yeah,
A motion to accept the reallocation of hours as long as
yeah,
staffing
I'm
is
sorry.
approved.
for Sunday.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll make a
Is
motion.
there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Manny, the library organizational card.
okay, so you do have the organizational chart. I know in the past that was a taboo word or words here, but in front of you is an organizational chart. Thank you, Anna, for creating it on Canva. I wanted it to be as simplistic as possible. If you look on the second page of the organizational chart, it does list staff members. I just want to point out just a couple of things. So you have my position as library director, and then to one side is the executive administrative assistant, which is currently Anna and will be Summer. So working hand in hand with that. On the other side of me is the deputy director, which is Anjanath. When I am not here, if I'm on vacation or whatever, kidnapped or so, I don't know, whenever I, yeah, conference or abducted, who knows? The deputy director would slide in and basically hold the fort down until I'm back or my ransom money's paid, might be a little too high, you know. Yeah. And vice versa, if the deputy director is away on vacation or at a conference, and I slide into that and hold the fort down until she returns.
Cash handler goes under deputy director if approved.
Yes, that's correct.
I asked Mandy to put, or Anna to put names here so you would know who these people are. These names will change because we're already changing.
Yeah, this is already inaccurate.
Any questions on the organizational chart?
Motion to approve it. Yes, please.
Second. Any discussion on the organizational chart?
Correct.
Well,
It will be.
it would be the first one, first page, not, this is just for our benefit.
The first one will go on file with HR. The second one will be for you all.
Okay, all in favor?
Right.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Thanks for doing that too. That really, really helpful. Okay, we have a proposed public meeting room policy. Has everyone had a chance to look at that? And we're gonna talk about it. This is no vote. This is just to look at it. Any questions on it? And we'll bring it up at the next meeting.
This has nothing to do with policy, but this, when I attend events in here and we have the fan going, why is it so warm in this room? And does that need to be addressed in the budget? I'm just curious.
I can bring that up to Don. I know this room is infamous, and Judith is smiling back there. This is infamous for being very warm.
Yeah.
Or the meat locker.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or sometimes it's like you can see your breath.
I just think if there's opportunity for about some budgets and that it's, we know it's something.
Thank you, because I was here for a meeting last week and it was so hot.
Yeah.
And that seems to be very common with public libraries. The library I came from, it was the children's story time room. That thing, you could freeze meat in there. It was so cold, like all year round. It was crazy.
It hasn't been submitted, sent on.
Well, that's a monitor, and if that monitor doesn't work, then that could be the problem.
That would just be a maintenance request. I know they've been in here before because there's a few other rooms where it's pretty warm. Hunters, yeah, they do have someone in maintenance that specifically handles HVAC. So, because there's a few, like I said, there's a few rooms in here, either super hot or super cold.
Okay. We have a funding request to the Friends. So it's. No, it's that last.
Oh, okay.
So it should be the last page in your pamphlet or in your packet.
And this is for Santa Claus.
This is for a bill that we spent in December for a substitute Santa.
Yeah.
When Santa got sick.
I think I've seen a cartoon about that.
Well, luckily he was great. The substitute Santa. And he even brought his deer with him. Which was really fantastic. I'm sorry, reindeer. Okay. Any discussion on that? Can I have a motion to pass this request? Second, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. All right, last thing on the under new business is the creating a nominating committee, and I have asked Logan Hall to be the chair of the nominating committee and Tim Moore to be on the nominating committee. And they have both agreed, and they will make the presentation next month of the slate of officers, and also 2 board members will be rolling off and are both eligible to be brought back up again if you want to do that. And I've talked to both the funding bodies about that, and they agree that that's fine. So if it's up to the nominating committee if they want to do that. And I also had, oh, sorry, any question?
We don't deal with people coming necessarily vote on.
No. No, but you bring up the names.
Yes, I'm coming. We'll provide you.
And both Maryville and Alco are Maryville and Blount County of 5. I did need one last thing. I did get a chance to talk to Greg McLean and also the county about the expenditures on the let me step back. That was Greg McLean and talked to him about the trustees position that is open and to make sure that he didn't feel or that the community didn't feel that there was a problem with the name that we had put up, and that he would, because he works for a contractor, that there would be any kind of conflict of interest. Thank you. And so they both felt that there was absolutely no conflict of interest, that he could serve as a board member. And so
But did he have to recuse himself from?
yes, exactly that, and that would be what he would have to do if there was a bidding process or funding that he would have to talk about, that he would have to recuse himself. Yeah, they said that has worked fine and they don't have a problem with that.
So if he's on the board and his company cannot bid on it.
Oh, yeah, they could bid,
They can, he has to recuse.
but he can't be.
He's just an employee there, right?
Right. He can't be in the meeting. And he can be in the meeting, he just can't vote.
Can't vote.
So we'll bring that up next month also. And then on the book drop, I talked to the county about the request for us to pay for it ourselves and skip the bidding process on the book drop. And Manny was told that it was a state law, and I was told again that it is somewhat of a state law. But we can talk about it because we're funding it 100%, and it will have to go through the budget department. And if we do fund it, they can waive some of this, but the money still would have to come from the foundation and go to the county. County would have to put it in the library's budget as an addition, and then we have to still create a set of drawings that has to be signed off to the county on, and then go back around again and then bid it out. So what I'm trying to avoid is a long drawn out process and try to make it as fast as we possibly can so we can work on this thing and have it going by the fall. So anyway, that's where we stand. I understand what they're talking about now, and so we'll be working on it. Okay, any other questions or anything else bring before the board? Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn? Second. Thank you. All in favor of adjourn? Thank you very much. We'll see you next month.
On the 18th.
Yes, 18.
Oh, where you ready?
Excellent.
For you? Yes. I just wanted to say you have less information on the process.
Good.